In this video, we're dealing with a challenging geometry question sent to me from Isabel, and it deals with writing an equation of a line, defining the midpoint of a line, dealing with the perpendicular bisector, right? And then we start to get into some really fun concepts in the next couple of parts. We solve the system of equations for equal perpendicular bisectors, and this will form a point, which we call Q. And they ask us in the next couple of questions to label all of these things, that's the last part here, but also to look at the distance formula from this point Q to the vertex, each vertex of the triangle, and they're going to ask us what we notice. So here they're going to ask us to think about something really fun with triangles, which is the point of center, because there's so many different types of centers of a triangle, and we're going to discover one in this problem as well. So it's a rich problem, a lot to it, and I think it offers some nice challenges. But let's get started. The first thing I like to do before I write this equation out is to plot this triangle, because in this problem we're given triangle ABC, and the points are 3, 6, 0, -3, and -3, 3. So let's set that up. So we'll start with point A, and point A was 3, 6. So 1, 2, 3, right, here's 3, and then up 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's point A. And A was 3, 3, 6. Now B, just to go back because I forgot, is 0, -3. And C is -3, 3. So B is 0, -3, down here, 1, 2, 3. There's point B, 0, -3. And point C is over here, it's -3, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And now we've got our triangle. And now it's just a matter of connecting these dots. Get my line tool. And now I feel like I'm a little bit more ready to deal with this problem. So the first thing we're doing is we're writing the equation of each line. Well, let's start with AB, right? From this point to this point right here. To do that, right, to write the equation of this line, I want to find the slope of this line. So we'll start with line AB. Now the slope, of course, is equal to delta y over delta x. So that means we're going to subtract the y values, 6 minus -3, right, over the difference of the x values, 3 minus 0. So here the slope is going to equal what? Well, 6 minus -3 is 9. 3 minus 0 is 3. So we get 9 over 3. And that is just 9 divided by 3. So for AB, the slope is 3. The next thing we want to do is find the y-intercept, the b value, which is nice in this problem because the point B is the y-intercept, right? It's crossing the y-axis. So here, the y-intercept is what? Well, it's crossing the y-axis at -3. So that's our b value. And if we use the form y equals mx plus b, right, we can get an equation for the line AB. So AB will equal what? Well, our m value, our slope is 3, so it's 3x, and our b value is -3. So there's our first equation of our first line. And now to keep track, I'll write it here on this picture. And I usually like to write it right on the line. So maybe I'll write it over here though. Y equals 3x minus 3. Just because I'm thinking if I put it over there, I'll have room for everything else. So that's AB. What about BC? Let's do that next. So for BC, same approach. First we find the m value, right? Delta y, so -3 minus 3. -3 minus 3 over delta x, so 0 minus -3. 0 minus -3. And what's that? Well, -3, take 3 away, you get -6. 0 minus -3, right, is positive 3. So the slope is -6 over 3, which is what? Well, that's just -2, right? Because -6 divided by 3 is -2. And the b value, again, this point down here is crossing the y-axis. That's our y-intercept. So that b value is also -3. So the slope for this line will be what? Well, our slope is -2, right? And our y-intercept's -3, so I get -2x minus 3. And then one more to go. So let's label this one on our picture because it's very easy to lose track here. It's very easy to make a mistake. So -2x minus 3. And one more line, AC. So AC, again, same approach, except here we've got to figure out what the y-intercept is, right? It's here, but we need to figure it out. So let's do that next. So for this point, let me use a different color. Let's call it AC, right? AC's slope, same approach as before. Delta y, so 6 minus 3 over 3 minus -3. So 6 minus 3 and 3 minus -3. That's our slope. 6 minus 3 is 3. 3 minus -3 is like 3 plus 3 or 6. We get 3 over 6 or 1/2. So our slope is 1/2. But to find the b value, what I like to do is it's a two-step process. I plug in a point into the formula. I'm going to choose point A because it's all positive, and that'll allow me to find the y-intercept. And here's what I mean. If I know that y equals 1/2 x, that's our slope, mx, plus some b value, right? All I have to do is plug in a point that I know is on this line, and I know I can figure out this missing piece. Because let's assume we have a, which equals 3, 6. This means if I plug in 3, the x value, 1/2 times 3, right, I should get what? Well, the y value at this point is 6. So this means that 1/2 times 3 plus some b value, sorry, it looks like my 6, so b, that's a b and it's a 6, right? There's some b value that makes this equation true. So we have 1/2 times 3, which is what? Well, that's just 3 over 2, right? Plus b equals 6. So I just solve for the b value here, and that tells me the y-intercept. So I subtract 3/2 from both sides. I'm going to rewrite 6 in terms of halves. So it's 12/2, right? Minus 3/2. 12 over 2 is 6. And that just means that the b value is 9 over 2. So what does that mean? Well, that means that we know our slope for this line AC is 1/2, and we know that the y-intercept is 9 over 2, or it is 4.5, right? 9 divided by 2 is 4.5. So we can write this equation for this line. Y equals 1/2 x, and I'll write plus 9 over 2. So we've got our 3 equations for our 3 lines. Let's put that on our graph so we don't lose track. So y equals 1/2 x, right, plus 9 over 2. And we're done with the first 3 parts, A, B, and C. So let's put a check mark there. We've got that. Find the midpoint of each side. Okay, this is not as intense. To find the midpoint of any two sides, what do we do? Well, really, without memorizing any formula, all you're doing is averaging the x and y distances between any 2 points. It's the halfway, right? Add up 2 numbers divided by 2, you get what is exactly between them. So points are made up of x and y values. The point is, or the goal is with the midpoint formula, add those x values up, divide them by 2. Add those y values up, divide them by 2. So let's find our 3 midpoints. So let's start with AC. So the midpoint of AC, what do we do? Well, let's set this up. AC just goes from, AB we'll say, because I want to stick with green there. Let me go back. Okay, AB. Our 2x values are, let's see, 3 and 0. So we add up those 2 and then add up our y values, 6 and -3. So 3 plus 0 over 2, and then 6 plus -3 over 2. Right? We add up our y and our x values. Okay, and we divide by 2 because we're averaging. That means the midpoint is 3/2, over, that's our x value, sorry. And then here, again, it'll be 3/2. So it's 1.5, 1.5. Before we get lost in this, let's label that, right? So 1.5 and then up 1.5. So it's about here. This is our midpoint, and we'll label that 1.5 and then 1.5. And that makes sense. It looks about right. Now the midpoint of BC, same idea. We'll just have to add up these values. Let me find the right color though. Okay. So here, BC, right, we had 0 and -3 and -3 and 3. So our midpoint of BC, a little bit different. One more time, look at that. 0 plus -3. 0 plus -3 over 2. That's our x values added up. And then our y values, -3 and 3. -3 and 3 over 2. Simplify this, what do we get? Well, this over here will be -3 over 2, which is -1.5. And then 0 over 2, which is just 0. So let's look and see if that makes sense. So we get -1.5, 0. It's about right here. That makes sense. Looks good. So again, this is our midpoint of this side. So that's -1.5 and 0. One more midpoint. And our last midpoint is on side AC. So AC, if we just look at it, I'm trying to get the right color. There it is. AC, we're going to add up 3 and -3 and 6 and 3. So let's do that down here. And I would do this mentally. I just don't want to make any mistakes. So the midpoint of AC is going to equal the sum of our x value, which is 3 and -3. So that's 0 over 2, right? 3 plus -3, I'll write it out anyway, over 2. And then our y value is 6 plus 3 over 2, right? 6 plus 3 over 2. So this is really 0 over 2, which is 0. And then 9 over 2, which is about 4.5. So that's our midpoint of AC. So let's label that here. And I think we have that point already. It's right here. Right? That midpoint is the y-intercept on that line, which is nice. That means that the midpoint is 0, right? Midpoint equals 0, and then 9 over 2. Okay, so we found our 3 midpoints. And we're moving along. Let's go back to our question. Okay, so we got A through D done. Now write an equation for the perpendicular bisector for each side. It sounds nasty, but all you have to do for the perpendicular bisector, depending on the way we write this formula, I'm going to use the y equals mx plus b format. So that means we need 2 steps. First, we take the negative reciprocal, right, of each slope. So negative reciprocal of each slope. And then we want to find the b value, the y-intercept. Oops, sorry. So 2 steps, negative reciprocal of each slope, and then find our b value for each of those lines. So again, we're going to find 3 more equations, one for each, right, of the perpendicular bisectors. But I've already taken enough time here, so let me do that in our next video.